Southsiders Studios is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phone, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your smartphone. Find it in an app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio. Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome back to the podcast that you did last Sunday. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me, as usual, is Tom Haggis from Cheshire Moon Films.
Greetings from Cell Block B.
Gabriel Rowald from One Genome Short Productions.
Escape this podcast now, if you can.
And normally I would introduce Mr. Sam Twomey, but he's not here because he got married, 2 weeks ago? Tom?
Yep.
Yeah.
10 days.
10 days ago, and he is currently recovering from his honeymoon. But you can see our photograph of all four of us up on Facebook that was taken at the wedding. Sam was very happy and glad that we were all there. So, have you seen that picture yet?
I have not. I'm going to go look right now. Because I'm sure it's something goofy.
While you go look, this is our lost episode. Like, we were supposed to do this back episode 18, Gabe. Is that right? You found your notes. So, so Gabe's actually had to watch them twice again. Tom, did you?
I did not watch them again. I was actually kind of scanning through them, but I did watch them back in May 2012. And so they're as fresh as ever, though.
We're a little behind the times. And what was it, 30 years ago? How many years ago today? Or yesterday? 32 years ago. Yesterday, Escape from New York came out. So it's kind of cool. So yeah, should we just go ahead and poke the monkey? I'll poke the monkey, Gabe, while you're looking for the photo. So,
all right.
Hold on.
Ladies and gentlemen, damsels and heroes, welcome to the main event. Tonight, we have the long-awaited bout between the guy from the computer wore tennis shoes and the guy from Friday on My Mind. Two movies you've probably never heard of. In the first corner, released in 2012, directed by James Mather and Stephen St. Ledger, starring Guy Pearce, Maggie Grace, and Vincent Reagan. Lockout! In the second quarter, released in 1981, directed by John Carpenter, starring Kurt Russell, Lee Van Cleef, and Ernest Borgnine. Escape from New York!
All right. Did you find the photo yet, Gabe?
I have not.
You haven't?
No.
Do you want
Is it on Sam's Facebook?
No, it's on the
It's on the
Cinesmack.
Cinesmack one?
Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah.
the Cinesmack Facebook page.
All right.
I don't want to continue until you've seen this photo.
Okay, hold on.
By the way, this was totally not my idea.
I'll take full credit for this.
But after it was suggested to me, I was all over it. So I'm not going to throw the guy under the bus.
Who is it?
Did you see it?
Yeah, who is that? I don't even know who that is.
That's you.
In several years.
Doing your impression of Joe Biden.
It does kind of look like Joe Biden.
It does. It does. Actually, that's one of Sam's new in-laws.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's an uncle or something like that. I don't even remember.
I think his name's Greg.
Yeah,
Greg?
I think you're right.
That's close.
So, yeah, there you go. If you
Yeah.
guys are wondering,
He was a very good sport.
He
along,
was.
so.
He was. If anyone's wondering what Gabe actually looks like, you can look on our Cinesmack page and see the picture of the four of us. All right, let's move on. Since it's just the three of us, we're going to do 5-minute rounds. So this might be a pretty fast podcast. I figured 10-minute rounds with three guys, that's going to make it a little long. Truly, it is. But anyway, let's go ahead and ring the bell and move on to writing.
I thought when I saw, okay, this is going to be one of those instances, and we've had this a lot happen on the show where somebody didn't see the movie when it first came out, and then they have to watch it again, and they don't have any of the context of being in 1981.
Right.
And that's what happened to me. I watched it last year for the first time. And I thought the whole concept, when the type comes up and they say, crime went up 400%, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, what a cool idea. Just to kind of like close off New York and just make it an independent prison. What a cool idea. I thought that was really great. And really it went downhill after that. I thought there really wasn't, I just, I used to watch Night Court, so I had an idea of what New York was like in the 80s. That's the extent. There were a lot of jokes. Apparently, there were a lot of loose hubcaps and steam coming up through the sewers a lot. So it wasn't that far from a prison anyway, according to the opening sequence from Night Court. So I think, so I kind of get where somebody would get this idea, but I just didn't feel like the story was executed very well.
Right.
Lockout, on the other hand, I'll talk a little bit more when we get to the acting, I think, but it never really tried to be more than it really was. And I thought the story was pretty good. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Right.
Actually, on revisiting these, I actually enjoyed them both a little bit more than I expected to. I had seen, probably not in 81 when it first came out, but I had seen Escape from New York in the past. And I remembered it being really campy and really kind of cheesy. And it was, but the production value was fairly high.
For 81.
What's that?
For 81.
For 81.
What? You think so? I don't know about that.
I was actually, it was higher, the production value was higher than I expected it to be.
I really felt like they were shooting a block away from the cops at all times. Like they weren't supposed to be shooting on any of these streets. It seemed very rushed and put together.
Like guerrilla style?
Guerrilla style. Like they didn't have permits for anything.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll get into it when we get into the directing. We can talk about editing and stuff. There's some editing things that I would have done a little differently. It lingered a lot, but as far as writing is concerned, frankly I don't think either of them is really all that great. And they try to make in Escape from New York, they try to make Snake really tough and but his lines are really kind of
do your Snake voice again. I like that. Tough.
I don't know. I don't remember what he sounded like exactly, but it was kind of like that, kind of Batman. But his lines were really kind of cornball. Like I never felt like he was really all that intimidating. He was just kind of a little bit of a smartass. Whereas in Lockout, what was Snow. Snow's character, he was a smartass too, but I liked his lines a lot better. I thought they were kind of corny and they were smartass and tough guy kind of lines, but they each time that he said one, it seemed a little bit more relevant to the situation. It wasn't just some one-liner necessarily. So I enjoyed his smartassness better than I did in Escape from New York. So I think for me, the writing is for Lockout is a little bit better. Not a lot, but a little bit.
Well, let's get this straight. These aren't movies that are gonna ever win an Oscar, that were ever intended to win an Oscar. I think they were just made to entertain. But I have to agree with you guys. I really liked the Snow character a little bit better than I like Snake, which is saying a lot because I really do like Escape from New York. And I do like the idea of Snake. But I don't know. There was something missing where in the writing for Snow, they seem to have caught the spirit a little bit better. And maybe we may have to discuss that in the acting category, because maybe it's just the way that Guy Pearce and Kurt Russell approached the character that we liked them better.
I'm going to give it just, I would say this one is going to be based on the writing, because I think that Snow's a very cynical character. Mm-hmm. And cynicism is a fairly recent thing that in the past decade or so, cynicism's really kind of become this very acceptable way to be blasé about lots of things and be cool about it and not really care. And I think it wouldn't have worked in a film from 1981, but I think Snake could have used a little cynicism, because you want to cheer for Snow, because it's like the sports athlete. The sports athlete. That's nice.
It's a little redundant.
The football player that plays basketball and who doesn't really seem to care that too much about it. You kind of want to get behind him, because it seems like once they stop trying so hard is when they start to accomplish things. And the same thing happens with Snow.
Right. Okay. Well, we kind of went over, so. I was just seeing if we could.
We might be able to do 10-minute rounds.
Yeah, we might be able to. Do you have anything you want to add there, Gabe?
No.
No? All right. Well, we're not going 10-minute rounds on that.
Rounds. Here we go.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Let's put our votes in. Tom?
I'm going to go Lockout on this one.
All right. Gabe?
Yeah, Lockout for me, too.
Okay. And I have to agree with you guys. I did like the writing a little bit better than Escape from New York. So, see, that was quick and painful. Let's go ahead. We'll go on to acting.
All right. Yeah, acting's a little bit the same. And it's always hard to kind of separate them. It's really hard to separate, in certain senses, separate the acting from both writing and directing. It's hard to know how much, that actor brought to that particular character, and how much was actually written for them, and how much they were directed to do certain things.
Right.
But Escape from New York, again, kind of campy, kind of corny. Definitely not very serious acting. Mm-hmm. I think when we get into the acting, we'll talk about certain characters more than the main characters.
Well, that's what we're into now.
Yeah.
Just want to remind you, we're in the acting category.
Right, but as we keep going on this topic, I think we'll actually focus a little bit more on some of the supporting cast a little bit. But I really liked Guy Pearce as Snow in this, again, because of his cynicism, but he also portrayed a certain amount of vulnerability and a certain amount of kind of humanity. He was a tough guy and talked tough, but you felt like there was something else underneath that.
Yeah.
That, and I felt he portrayed a little more subtlety than Kurt Russell did. Now, if you know anything about the history of Kurt Russell, obviously he started out as a child actor and was in all these, like nice, happy, charming Disney movies. Yeah. And so then, and I think this kind of movie was, quite a departure from what people were used to seeing him in. And so I think from an acting standpoint, it was a real stretch for him. But I didn't really think he brought any kind of subtlety or nuance to the character. He just kind of said the lines and did his action and was suitable doing so,
Right.
Yeah, and I don't remember the names of the characters, but there are kind of like synonymous characters in these two movies. They're really kind of not so different from each other. And Lockout may be, in a certain sense, kind of based on Escape from New York or movies like it. But the characters I think about and what I'd like to hear about are the crazy characters. I don't remember their names here. Let me see if I can get their names.
Alex,
but there's. Do you know?
Yeah, Alex and Heidel.
Yeah, the brothers, right? They were the brothers. Yeah.
Well, and what's the character in Escape from New York that's he's kind of crazy. He's got the wild hair, and he's, you know,
You're not talking about Cabby. You're not talking about Ernest Borgnine, are you?
no, not Cabby. He was kind of a bad guy character.
Harry
kind
Dean. Was it Brain? Harry Dean Stanton.
No, no, he was the kind of the crazy one, the henchman who. I'm trying to think of what that character's name was. But they're kind of synonymous between the two movies,
Right?
you know. And you know, the guy in Escape from New York is way over the top. He's just kind of goofball crazy, whereas the guy in Lockout, he's actually like disturbing, like crazy.
Right. Not like goofball crazy, but like disturbing. That guy will eat my face.
Yeah,
right.
Like I would never turn my back on that guy because he will kill me in a heartbeat just to get what he wants. And I really wish I don't know that I didn't write down the characters' names. I wish I could remember the characters' names. I'll look it up while you guys talk.
Okay. All right.
I thought. Did anybody think that the Alex was supposed to be played by Gerard Butler and they couldn't get him?
Yeah. Now
like,
that you say that,
I'm watching it, was just kind of like, you know, your poor man's Gerard Butler, and I know that they were both in 300 together. So, you know, I thought him and then his brother Joseph Gilgun was pretty good too. They made a pretty good pair, the two of them together. You know, kind of going back and forth. And we'll talk a bit more about directing, but it was really hard for me to be scared of Chef in Escape from New York. So
yeah, I know. That was kind of funny. Although I think he did, you know, I guess he did an okay job as that character. But I mean, I feel like they cast him in part just because of his voice. His voice has an intimidating, you know, deep intimidating.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is I know, you know, I'll give credit to Lockout. You know, they make tons of these just crappy movies, and somebody had the idea of like, hey, what if we took one of these crappy movies and actually put some decent actors in it?
Yeah.
And throw somebody like Guy Pearce in there and let him have some fun because he's a great actor and he can pull this off. This movie, Lockout, I really benefited by putting him in there. If they had someone less in there, you know, some crappy actor like Channing Tatum or some shit like that, then it would have sucked balls and nobody would have ever heard about it.
Right. Or given it to Steven Seagal or Van Damme, you know, because they've gone to, I mean, direct to DVD now, which is kind of sad because if any of you have watched JCVD,
I heard it was really good.
It's awesome. It's really good. Actually, I was just able to watch it this past weekend and I loved it.
Is it actually about him? Or?
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of a, it's a take on his life, but I mean, it never really happened, but it's about him getting in trouble with the law because he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the cinematography is great. And Van Damme actually does, there's this little part where he kind of separates himself and talks to the camera. And the guy can act. And I thought it was really good. Even if he was talking to us in French, it was really good. Like, I mean, he was still able to get that emotion. Like, I was still able to feel it even when I was reading the subtitles. But I agree with you, Tom. I think Guy Pearce added a lot. But we're also looking at two movies that are, let's face it, kind of Escape from New York was, I'm not going to say the first of its kind, but it's one of the first of its kind that's like that. And so Lockout was able to build on all this, and Guy Pearce was able to kind of look back at all these other films that are somewhat similar to this and take different bits and pieces and say, well, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to do that differently. So I don't know. I liked Kurt Russell as Snake, and I'll agree with you that probably my favorite part of Lockout is the opening credits. When he is just a complete smartass and he's still getting punched in the face. Like, I loved it. And I just loved his wit when he was talking with Maggie Grace. And speaking of Maggie Grace, she's great to look at, but I hated her in this film. I did not like the character at all. I don't know what it is, but I just did not like her character.
Can't you just stop talking and just follow Guy Pearce around?
Exactly. And do what he says. Like, get in the escape pod. Why'd you come back? But then you have, I mean, if you look over Escape from New York, you have Kurt Russell, Lee Van Cleef, like one of the greatest Western stars of I think of all time.
Yeah.
Ernest Borgnine, Isaac Hayes, Harry Dean Stanton. I don't know. Just to me, that they added a lot of weight to Escape from New York. Maybe not as much as far as saving it in the acting category, but I would have to say for me it was a draw, and I'll talk more about that in the directing or the overall, but that's the way I feel about it. Did you ever find your actor, Gabe?
No, I still haven't. I don't even know what to look for. I don't remember the character's name. He was just he had the crazy, wild, spiked up hair. He showed up at the beginning and said, "We've got the president." He's got delivered the news that they had the president, and then he was guarding the president when they came in and said, "Hey, we think he might have cyanide on him."
Was it Remy? Remy? Was it Tom Atkins? Maybe not. I don't know. I can't help you, man. I like literally I know what you're talking about, but I can't picture it in my head.
Yeah,
I can't picture his face, but
yeah, the pictures of him now don't look anything like
right,
that. Oh.
Right. It's totally just like you in the Cinesmack photo from Sam's wedding.
Significantly different.
All right, well, let's go ahead and end it because we're almost at 10 minutes with this one. Gabe.
Yeah, Lockout.
Lockout. All right.
Yeah.
Tom.
Lockout.
All right. God. All right. Guy Pearce won it for me too. I can't. I can't help it. All right. Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Let's go to directing.
Look, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for saying this. I'm not a John Carpenter fan.
All right. I'm done.
And I find him to be somewhat of a hack when it comes to directing. I think that
really,
I thought Halloween was really good, but his films don't age very well, And I don't know if it's maybe he's a pioneer, and then suddenly from 81 to 85, everybody steals his stuff, and then his stuff looks dated because everything we've seen has been ripped off from him. But I just, I don't find his stuff very engaging, and there's nothing really exciting about the composition. Lockout, on the other hand, was pretty basic. The special effects were not the greatest. When they're recounting the story and the high-speed chase down the highway stuff was pretty weak.
That was terrible. What was the deal with that motorcycle chase?
I don't know.
It was really bad. Well, first of all, it came out of nowhere.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
because I'm not quite sure where he saw the motorcycle. I seem to remember a sequence where he, like, I don't know, something happens to him. He looks up, and it's almost as if he sees that motorcycle, but I couldn't tell for sure. And then all of a sudden, he's on the motorcycle, and it's the weirdest looking scene. And then he gets blown off the motorcycle just a few seconds later, and it was so weird. It seemed out of place to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of he's like, hey, look how reckless he is. I was like, oh, well, let's see what he does on the space station. But the one thing I'm going to give credit to Lockout. I feel like with John Carpenter stuff, he tries really, really hard, and it just doesn't go anywhere with me. And that's me. That's my opinion. So thag@gmail. You can email me. I don't give a shit. When I was sitting in the theater and I sat down to watch Lockout, I was kind of just like, oh, maybe Guy Pearce will be good in this. And then, like you guys said, the opening credits kind of reeled me in. I was like, oh, Guy Pearce is in this. This is going to be just fine. And I just, and then there's some parts and it's starting to get away from me. And then all of the prisoners get out of stasis. And one of the guys gets thrown over the railing and we get the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah.
And at that point, I sat forward in my seat and I went, oh, it's that kind of movie. And it was like this little inside film industry joke. Don't take us too seriously. We're going to have some fun tonight.
Right.
And as soon as I heard that, I mean, I can flip the switch, and I absolutely enjoyed myself the rest of the way through the movie. Because suddenly I was like, oh, we're just supposed to be having fun here, right? This isn't... yeah, this isn't like supposed to be anything engaging or life changing or anything. And suddenly just my film snob went out to the lobby and waited for me in the car. So, but that was the point for me that they switched around. Special effects aside, yeah, I thought the direction of Lockout was a little bit better because they didn't try so hard.
Right, and there were two of them.
And there were two
directors.
Well, and go. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm talking.
Yeah, and what was the deal with that? I mean, do you know any of the story behind that?
I don't. I'm.
I mean, is it like the Wachowski brothers?
I don't know. I'll see what I can do here. I'll look it up. But I was getting ready to defend John Carpenter, so I'll say my piece, and then you can go, Gabe.
Sure.
I can see where he comes across like that, Tom. Like, I totally can understand that, but I don't know. I look at John Carpenter as he's a writer, director. He writes most of the music for his films.
Yeah, which is crazy too.
Which is, yeah, absolutely crazy. But I can see that. Like, a lot of times and you shouldn't have to do this, but it's almost an acquired taste, like, having beer for the first time and learning to like beer, learning to like wine if you're not a beer or wine person. It's taken me multiple watches of certain John Carpenter movies in order to enjoy them, in order to figure out what type of movie it is. Like you said, the Wilhelm scream with Lockout, and you sat forward and you're like, oh, okay, I got it. But yeah. John Carpenter's done Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing, Christie, Starman, Big Trouble in Little China, They Live, which is, I don't know, that is such a great movie. It's corny as hell.
One of the longest fight sequences ever.
Exactly, and I'll agree with you. His movies do not age well. I mean, even watching Escape from New York again, and even when he did Escape from L.A., like, watching it now, it's like, oh my God, this does not hold up. The tech just doesn't hold up.
Yeah. Well, they had tape.
Yeah.
It's on a tape.
Yeah. And
cassette tape. It's like, I haven't seen a real cassette tape in I don't know how
he's
long.
done one of my favorite horror movies of all time, besides Halloween, but it's called In the Mouth of Madness, which I think I talked about when we discussed Halloween. He did Vampires and Ghost of Mars, which those I didn't really get into, but I have to say, and he also did Memoirs of an Invisible Man with, isn't that the Chevy Chase one? I think that's Chevy Chase one.
Yeah.
And it is, yeah. Which wasn't really that great of a movie, but it was still fun to watch. So I don't know if I've dug myself a hole, but I really enjoy watching it just because he kind of tries to take on all aspects of making the film, which you may be right in that point, Tom, in saying that if he concentrated on one thing, not just, let's say, writing, directing, and not worry about the music, maybe the films would be a little bit better. So like I said, I can see your point, but I just love The Thing, like especially The Thing. I'll never forget the first time I watched that, which was only like 5-6 years ago, and I watched it in complete darkness, and it scared the crap out of me. And I love that soundtrack. Soundtrack's great. But anyway, go ahead, Gabe, and I'll look up about the brothers here. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, well, you do have to give John Carpenter a lot of credit for being, pretty multi-talented. Like we were saying, he's written, directed, scored a number of movies. Now, you could say that not any one of those things was, truly exceptional in any respect, but the fact that he can do all those things and has done all those things is pretty respectable. And, then we've got Lockout on the other hand, which is kind of, it's like two guys doing the work of one average person, one average director. So, because I don't think the directing is particularly stellar in either one. One of the things that I noticed when I was watching Escape from New York is that there were a lot of moving shots. There were a lot of like dolly shots and that kind of thing. And they seemed to linger a little bit too long. It's like he was really in love with a shot and didn't want to cut where it seemed comfortable. He wanted to leave as much of the shot in as possible. And so like the camera would be dollying and they would turn and walk away, and then they would be walking, and they would be walking, and you're like, okay, we don't need to see all this. We know that so I felt like there was kind of from an editing standpoint, there was a pacing issue that they could have like sped up the pace a little bit. And it, like Tom said earlier, it was a pretty interesting concept. I have to give him credit for coming up with the concept. I'm assuming, since he wrote it, that he came up with that
Right.
story idea
But
as well.
I just have to say real quick, it's a good concept, but it's been done before. I mean, Australia was a penal colony for the British colonies. Like it was an island that was a prison meant for
Sure.
prisoners. So I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's not like it was totally original. But I see what you're saying. No one had done it like in a film before and using a major metropolitan area. So I apologize. Go ahead.
Oh no, not a problem. Yeah, so I don't know. I have to give him a lot of credit for what he did, and a lot of these movies that we're talking about, maybe they didn't age very well, but I think many of them are what we would consider kind of classics nowadays.
Or cult classics for a lot of
Yeah, cult classics. That's probably a better way to put it. In a certain sense, yeah, they're original and one of a kind. And sure, they've been copied since, but they were the first ones to a certain degree. And I thought the directing, editing, cinematography, all that was very suitable for Lockout. But I don't know. I think I have to give some credit to John Carpenter for being multi-talented and for kind of being an originator of all these ideas.
Okay. Well, just so you know, James Mather is actually a cinematographer, and it looked like Stephen St. Ledger has just directed like one other short that I could find on IMDb. So it could be that James Mather just kind of helped him out while he was doing the cinematography, so they gave him a director credit.
Huh.
And plus, they both wrote it as well. They're getting credit for the screenplay. So
maybe that's why too. Maybe they worked on it together.
It could be. But Maggie Grace
it's like a pet project of theirs or
Have
something.
I mentioned how hot Maggie Grace is? Anyway, let's go ahead and get our votes cast. Tom.
I'm gonna have to give it to Lockout.
Okay.
Sorry.
You're okay, Gabe.
I'm gonna go with Escape from New York on this one.
All right, and I have to go with Gabe on Escape from New York, just because I'm a John Carpenter fan. Let's go on to overall.
Yeah, my first experience with Lockout was not a good one, and you guys, I know, have heard this story many times, but I'm not sure that our listeners have heard it many times.
Ahead.
No, I actually went and saw this in the theater, and I saw it in it had been out for a little while, and it had moved to a discount theater in town, and they must not make enough money to do basic maintenance, because I went and I was the only person in the theater. I sat in the theater all by myself, and then it said there was a sign on the door. And I think I probably saw it, just a day or two before we were going to record, which is typical of me. So there was a sign on the door that said, well, there's some sound issues with this. And I thought, and it said something about with the previews or whatever. So I thought, oh, well, I don't care about the previews. So, I sat in this theater all by myself and could barely hear the movie. It was all choppy. I couldn't hardly hear any of the dialogue, and it was kind of a cornball movie to start with. And it's like it was really a terrible experience, and I was really kind of upset. And I think some of the things surrounding the movie made me dislike it more than I should have, because I watched it again because it had been a while. So I watched it again on my own TV at home with good image and sound. And I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I expected.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You liked it more with clear sound.
With actual sound, when I could actually hear
Interesting.
what they were saying.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, when I could hear Snow's snarky dialogue, and I could actually, hear all the explosions and special effects and all that kind of stuff. I kind of enjoyed it.
You couldn't hear the explosions? That's pretty
Well,
bad.
it was like it was like every speaker in the whole theater had been like blown out. It was just like it was like listening to the movie through mud. It was just really terrible.
Well,
And
Gabe,
what'd you pay? $1.50 for that? That horrible experience?
Maybe. I don't know what that theater was.
just so you
I
know,
probably
they're
got
no
popcorn
longer
for
in
that,
business.
too.
They're no longer in business, Gabe. So I think
Are they out?
Yeah.
What is that one up on World Day there?
Nova.
Yeah, it's closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been closed. I think they closed shortly after you went. and saw the
Probably,
movie.
probably after that screening. As I walked out, they locked up for the last.
It was
time.
actually closed when you went to see it, but there were some guys just taking random money from people. And
Yeah, so people broke in and didn't know how to operate it.
We'll be demolishing a theater next to yours. Please ignore that. We'll try to time the impact with the explosions of your movie.
Whoa! It was like totally 3D. Yeah, so I have to say I enjoyed it more the second time than I expected I would. And actually, I kind of enjoyed Escape from New York a little bit more than I expected I would. I thought, it's campy and all that, but it was a little more polished than I seem to remember it being. So, and in this we talk about the music and we talk about special effects. And, we talked about John Carpenter doing the music for Escape from New York. And it's impressive that he does all these things on his own. However, the music really isn't all that great.
not in Escape from New York, no.
That's one of the things that definitely did not age well.
Yeah,
it was very
true.
kind of 80s synthesizer sounding. It did not age well. And it wasn't much of a departure from Halloween. In some respects, I could definitely hear kind of influences from the Halloween, score in there, and but that being said, I can't say I recall the music for Lockout specifically, but I feel like it was probably better.
That's because you couldn't hear it.
Well, the first time, yeah. So I don't know. I feel like the music was actually a detriment a little bit. It was a little bit of a distraction in Escape from New York.
Right.
And then we talked about the special effects. There's not a lot of crazy special effects in Escape from New York. They're all very they're definitely special effects versus visual effects.
Yeah.
And many of the effects in Lockout are pretty good, but some of them are really terrible, like that
the motorcycle.
that motorcycle chase.
That
It just really stands out as being
bugged
very
me.
terrible.
Yeah.
And
okay,
then
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. Then when they're falling through space, when they jump off the when they jump off the prison, they're falling through space. That was kind of cornball too. But anyway, go ahead, Tom.
The majority of Lockout was shot on green screen, and I don't. I have to give them credit for being able to pass that off. They built hardly any sets, and they most shot the entire thing on green screen. Which that is pretty impressive. I'm not a huge fan of chroma, but if you can pull it off and sustain believability that long, then
that's true. All right,
there's something to be said for that. Nothing like the direction and the writing. Nothing John Carpenter does ages well. I heard that he was going to open a vineyard and everybody shot him down. It was like, no way, that would be like the worst wine in the world.
Jesus.
It's an 81 John Carpenter. No, God, no.
No. Makes me listen to synthesizer music all night long after I drink it.
So, and I have to wonder too, Luc Besson, who I love, he does some of my favorite movies. I love Fifth Element and, The Professional were two of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
He had a hand in this in terms of coming up with the story and producing the film. And I always wonder when you see a movie like this, geez, how often was he on the set and helping out? We talked about that a lot when we did Super 8 with Steven Spielberg, because there seemed to be a kind of a Spielberg hand over the whole thing. And with Lockout, it kind of seemed like there was some Luc Besson-y thingies going on. And I really like him, and I think that's probably some of the things that helped get Lockout kind of across the finish line is some of the stuff that he added to it. So, Yeah, Escape from New York. I just did not sit well with me. Sorry. I'll make it up though with my awesome Kurt Russell pick at the end.
All right. Man, I can't really add anything. Like, you guys kind of nailed everything that I was going to talk about. Like, the visual effects really, but I did not know that was mostly shot on green screen. So that kind of changes my mind about it. Like, maybe they should have put a little bit more money towards the motorcycle scene. But I've got some trivia here. I figured I would go through some trivia real quick. Lockout has 2 pieces of trivia. The main antagonist brothers are named Alex and Heidel. Alex Heidel was an alias used by Lee Harvey Oswald.
No!
Yeah.
Get out of here.
And then the Wilhelm scream, which you spoke of, Tom. The studio, for Escape from New York, the studio wanted Tommy Lee Jones for the role of Snake Plissken. The studio didn't think Kurt Russell was right for the role because of his prior work, kind of like what Gabe said.
Huh.
The wireframe computer graphics on the display screens in the glider were not actually computer generated, as computers capable of 3D wireframe imaging were too expensive when the film was made. To generate the wireframe images, special effects designers built a model of the city, painted it black, attached bright white tape to the model buildings in an orderly grid, and moved a camera through the model city.
Jeez.
Wow. And the only scene actually filmed in New York was the opening dolly shot, which follows a character past the Statue of Liberty. Otherwise, everything else was almost filmed entirely in East St. Louis. So all I have to say is roll them up. Yeah, like there are there's probably like 3 pages of trivia for Escape from New York. So if you guys get a chance, go through and just read some of it. It was pretty cool. The model of the city was repainted and reused for Blade Runner.
What?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Well, you and I were just talking about how cool Blade Runner was from a visual effects standpoint.
Yeah. But there you go. Because I can't argue any of those points. I think you guys made really good points, and I feel the same way about it. So let's go ahead. We have 30 seconds if you want to say anything else. I'll take
Escape from New York. Escape from New York.
Thank you, Tom.
That's all I
right. Tom, what's your vote?
Escape from New York. No, I'm sorry. Lockout. Yeah.
Oh, I already marked it. Too late.
Oh, darn.
Too late. Oh,
shit.
Gabe.
I hate when that happens.
Lockout for me too.
All right. Which one will I watch again? I'm going to have to say Escape from New York. Sorry. I've watched it a few times. But, yeah, that one was rough for me. Just because I really liked Guy Pearce's character so much. But I like all the other characters a little bit better in Escape from New York. Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. That was easy, I guess. Who needs Sam?
Yeah. Who needs him?
Thanks for having me.
What are you guys talking about? Sam's right to here.
That is
you got to do Sam doing an impression.
Oh, I can do Sam doing Jimmy Stewart. I think.
All right.
Okay. All right.
What are you guys? I can't do it. He always starts with the whoa, but I can't do it past that.
Oh, that was priceless.
Practice the rest.
That was awesome. All right. Well, while I tally up the votes, which isn't going to take me very long, why don't we go ahead and move on to our recommendations for this month? We'll start with, I'm just going to close my eyes and point. Gabe.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with another campy classic movie. I'm going to recommend Death Race 2000.
Oh my God! Really? That's awesome.
Because
it's
awesome. Really bad, but it's that's what makes it good. And it's one of those movies, that I don't know if you realize the cultural impact that it's had necessarily, but we still do things like, how many points you gonna give me for running that person over?
Yeah.
While we're driving, it's like, we still think about getting points
We
running.
do?
Yeah, I've got lots of points.
You live where?
So, and it's really
Oh my God.
it's really bad, but it's kind of a fun old movie to watch. It's got Sylvester Stallone in it. Who was the other guy?
David Carradine.
David Carradine is in it. Yeah, it's kind of goofball, but it's kind of fun. So my recommendation is Death Race 2000.
All right. And imagine that they remade it a few years back, didn't they, with Jason Statham? Wasn't it?
They just called it Death Race.
Right? Yeah. They had to lose the 2000 because we're past that.
Right. Well, it is kind of fun.
Even though John Carpenter really wanted to leave the 2000 in there. Wave of the future, guys. Wave of the future.
Well, and they really changed the concept a lot too.
Yeah, they did
for Death Race, because it's just prisoners racing against each other, really.
Exactly, and not taking it.
They're not out in
the
the general public.
Yeah.
Running over, people in the hospital,
right?
Running over the nurses and doctors who
or
put the
people that are wanting to be run over by their favorite drivers.
Right.
That was the most messed up part. All right, Tom, go ahead.
My recommendation is the 1987 Academy Award winning film from Gary Marshall, Overboard. Hang on a second. Hang on. There's one detail I got wrong.
It wasn't directed by Gary. No, I'm kidding.
I don't think it won any Academy Awards. This is one of those movies from my family's Betamax days, and I think I've probably seen it 30 or 40 times. And every now and then, when in my life with my 4 kids, the lines from this movie will still pop up. So, SpaghettiOs with Ritz crackers or SpaghettiO surprise.
Yes.
And yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe you.
So it's a movie that's very dear to my heart. I absolutely love it. And I think it's aged actually quite well. I actually did watch it a couple weeks ago.
Except for the clothes.
The clothes, yes. Yeah, her clothes in particular. But I have it on Blu-ray because when I want to watch a movie like this, I want the sound and video image to be absolutely pristine. Because if it was DVD, I don't think I'd enjoy it as much.
Right.
So, yeah. So anyway, everybody go see Overboard.
It's funny that you bring that up
not?
because whenever it's on TV, Amanda has to sit and watch it.
It's fantastic.
I don't like the movie.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and
I love the music in it, the banjo.
I think just because my mom and dad used to watch it a lot because it's something that they got way back when we first got our very first VCR before you had the right after we were renting them. They got one for a Christmas present. And I remember we only had a few VHS tapes and one of them was Overboard. And I just grew so tired of Overboard. I just got sick and tired of it. But I'll agree. It's a good movie. It's just not my kind of cup of tea anymore because it's been ruined. Yeah, what?
I was going to say, I can't pick up a large shell and not say tofu decline into it over and over again. So that's a joke for anybody that's seen a movie 30 times. So
all right.
Hopefully those 2 people are listening to the podcast.
Moving on, I was going to pick a Kurt Russell, John Carpenter film, which was Big Trouble in Little China, but I'm going to go with Darkman. If we're going to go with cheesy stuff, I'm going to go with Darkman, directed by Sam Raimi, starring another reason because of this game that's going on Facebook where you get an actor and you have to name some of their movies. Tom gave me Liam Neeson, so I figured this would work. It's got Liam Neeson, Frances McDormand, and Colin Farrell. And it's actually got quite a bit of people. And it's got the certain Raimi touch that I've grown to love, like just some of his shots. So, yeah, go rent Darkman along with Overboard and Death Race 2000 and just sit down for a weekend. Get the kids in there and make them watch Death Race 2000 first and then show them Overboard and then show them Darkman and then put them to bed and see how long they stay in bed.
And see if they're normal.
Yeah. All right, let's find out who won. Poking the monkey.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? by decision is Lockout!
I started looking at this. I'm like, oh, I should have put Escape from LA up against Lockout because Snake Plissken actually goes to LA to rescue the president's daughter. But I do have to say, like, if you didn't like Escape from New York that much, Tom, you would probably hate Escape from LA. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I have not.
No. Okay. Well, just stay away from it. I'll just say that. Like, I kind of liked it, not that much though.
You know what? I haven't seen Big Trouble in Little China in a long time, since I was a kid, and I loved that movie when I was a kid. I'm scared shitless to put that in again, because I always see it. You know, it's always at Target. You know, they got the Blu-ray real cheap. I'm like, oh, that's a good edition. I should get that. And then I'm like, yeah, but what if I destroy childhood memories from this?
Well, I would sit down and just watch it, and like you said, let film snob Tom go to the grocery store while you sit at home and enjoy Big Trouble in Little China.
I would do that, but film snob Tom only comes home from the grocery store with like ham circles and Triscuits, and that ain't gonna do it. Film snob Tom's kind of a pain in the ass when it comes to food. Let me tell you.
But I have to say, it hasn't aged that well, but I still can watch it with kind of the kid's eyes with it.
I may try that, but it's John Carpenter. So
it's so good. It's so funny. All right. Do we have a contest winner, Tom?
We do have a contest winner. Jennifer McDowell from Cedar Falls, Iowa has won. Yeah, woohoo for Jennifer. So congratulations.
I didn't hear a woohoo from you, Gabe.
Oh, woohoo!
Watch your ass.
Was that right?
Better watch your ass.
That's all right. Work on that before next time, please.
Sorry.
So yeah, she got a Amazon gift card, and that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, there you go. So yeah, congratulations, Jennifer, and I guess we'll do another contest for the next show.
Guys, where can people find you, follow you, maybe jump out in front of your car to be killed by their favorite Cinesmacker? We'll start with you, Gabe, since that directly correlates with you.
Yeah. You won't see me coming. I get extra points for children and elderly people, so, you know.
That's right.
And the handicapped, so, you know.
Wow.
Pay attention.
Wow.
If you fall into any of those groups, pay attention. Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, and I'm also finally working on a website for our 48-hour team. Our team name is One Genome Short Productions, and the website is onegenomeShort.com.
All right. Thanks, Gabe. Tom.
Hey, everybody, do what the NSA does and follow me on Facebook and Twitter.
Sorry, that
and
was good.
I think we just got 50 new listeners, and they're all wearing ties. Facebook, Twitter, Vimeo. Check me out. Best wedding films you'll ever see. They're beautiful. They'll make you cry. So
I agree.
Check them out.
Yeah, I second that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And I agree. Gabe does some really good websites. Except for ours.
Our own. Never do anything with our own.
Yeah.
You know, the cobbler's children.
But yeah, Tom does do some good work with the weddings. I help him out every once in a while, and he did ours. So yeah, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter. Just search Mike Keeler. You can follow the studio, Southsider Studios, and .com if you want. We're on Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff. If we're a little late next month, please don't come after us because Gabe, myself will be taking part in the 48-hour. Tom will be doing all the post-production, correct? You're going to be rendering all the movies onto the screening discs.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That's my job.
Yep. And Sam will be producing the 48. So if you guys live around Des Moines, if you live in Iowa, check out the Des Moines 48-hour film project. Maybe come out and check Gabe and I's movies out. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to watch ours. Watch some of the other ones because they're actually good.
And I mean, I would throw it too. No matter where you live, look up your local 48 and check out the contest because it goes on. They're doing them in different cities all year long. So check out your city. There's probably some really good films happening, and you can see some emerging talent.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if it wasn't for the 48, I know I wouldn't be doing this, and I wouldn't be doing the podcast. What about you, Gabe?
Yeah, I'm sure I wouldn't. The 48 really gives me an opportunity to do some filmmaking when I wouldn't normally
Right.
take that opportunity. And and it also has introduced me to that's how I first met you, Mike. And so it's introduced me to a whole bunch of other film. Well, it was the very first meeting for the 48 that I ever went to.
Yeah.
And we just happened to sit right next to you. So it's introduced me to a lot of other great, talented filmmakers in Iowa.
We would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. Now, I'm serious. We need reviews just because that helps get us up in the categories. It doesn't cost anything, but it helps get us the exposure so we can find more film geeks like ourselves and like you. You can contact us at cinesmac@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmac. And here it is, Tom. You ready? Ready for this?
Yeah, I just real quick want to just say that the reviews are really important. Mike's not joking about that. We're still lagging behind Roger Ebert's podcast, and I can't figure that out.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Like just give us some stars. Like that really helps. Right? These guys are great. They make me laugh sometimes. Whatever works. Bring Sam back because the show sucks without him. Maybe. So for our August bout, we find our musical side as State Fair from 1945. I wanted to point that out because we were actually trying to decide which one it was. 45 or was it 62, Tom?
Yeah, 62 sucks, they said.
So State Fair from 1945 takes on The Music Man from 1962, not the 2003 Matthew Broderick one. And that's in celebration of August, which is in Iowa State Fair time. And if you've never gone to Iowa State Fair, go. So for Gabe, Tom, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
You gonna kill me now, Snake?
I'm too tired. Maybe later.
I feel like it would be disrespectful to tell everybody, David, call your mother.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.